You are listening to Imperfect Fifth, a podcast, offbeat conversations with music industry humans that we love. Today's episode is brought to you by Easy Visibility. Let Aaron Zimmerman be your visibility guide and visual storyteller, currently serving entrepreneurs globally. And by Double Take Productions. We have no tagline, we're just twins who have been taking photos, shooting and editing film, event planning, and more together since 2010. Be sure to nab your Rainbow Kitten Surprise hoodie or crop sweatshirt in our shop. Check out imperfectfifth.com/merch to see all of our current merchandise options, including small batch handmade earrings. On today's episode, we sit down with someone I have known for almost a decade. Blake is the owner and founder at Mastering.com. He is also the CEO and founder at Mercury Mastering, LLC, and has worked with talents of all kinds. He and his family recently made the move to New York for the next chapter of their journey, and it was a pleasure to catch up. What was the first song or album that you remember hearing, and does that work of art have any influence on how you approach your career today?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up obviously like listening to music, and I'm sure there's probably multiple songs out there that I first remembered hearing, but none of them really clicked with me until I heard Led Zeppelin 1. Like, I heard Led Zeppelin 1 when I was probably in like 6th grade, and I'm pretty sure that album like really sent me in a trajectory of like, whoa, this is really cool. So I think that's what kind of planted the seed of like, I think I love music so much. And so from there, it just started going off into classic rock and into, modern rock and kind of just instrument heavy music and then more alternative stuff and so forth. But I think if I were to be honest, I think the biggest influence and the first like sort of spark and light bulb in my mind, I guess, would be that Led Zeppelin 1 album.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Okay, so transferring over to the big question about basically who you are as a human being. I met you, it's been almost a decade now. I met you like a decade ago. And at the
That's so crazy.
I feel so old. It's nuts.
Yeah.
But at the time you were working at a recording studio that I had become an intern at, and you were working with P.O.D. Like, that was my big thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's in the studio working with P.O.D. But all I wanted was to be an engineer at the time, but the owners, of course, needed a little bit of help on the social media side. So that's kind of how I ended up falling into what I do now, which is hilarious. Right. So here we are, both of us kind of living versions of those initial dreams, and you have Mastering.com.
Yep.
And so I just want you to give us like kind of your story, the genesis of how all this came to be and what you're doing now.
Sure. Yeah. First of all, I cannot believe it's been almost a decade ago. You're right. I feel so old. But yeah, so I would say, yeah, obviously, like you said, about a decade ago, I was working as sort of kind of like the chief engineer of that recording studio. Just whatever came in there, I did, and whatever I brought in, I did, and that was just kind of really busy there. And yeah, I think at the time, the biggest project I worked on there was that Murdered Love record by P.O.D. Just did some engineering for it, and they were prepping for that record, and they were in there, and that was really cool because in middle school I remember that Satellite album really making it was a big influence on my life, I guess. I just thought it was so cool, and so kind of flash forward and fast forward, working with them was just kind of a surreal experience, and so. Yeah, so I was doing that, and I think ever since I did that record, or at least helped with the beginning stages of that record, and was just in the studio 24/7, 10, 12 hours a day, every day, I just really nailed down kind of my engineering skill set, and I just loved being in there. And so, if you keep doing that and you keep meeting great people and you still keep doing good work, you end up working with more and more great people. And so that's just exactly what happened. You just kind of kept working as a recording engineer. And after a few years of that, I'd like to say it was like maybe 3-4 years of that. I don't actually, probably around 3 years after that, I started to really, I had a pretty good repertoire of people, and I guess that I've worked with. And so I was really blessed and honored that I was able to meet so many cool people and work with them as well and produce some pretty cool stuff. To where I really just took an honest look at myself and said, okay, what do I love about this? Because there's many aspects. Like, as you know, there's getting the bands in there. There's promotion, like social media. There's the recording aspect. There's mixing. There's mastering. There's just so many elements. And so I think what I really resonated with, was a couple things. I loved recording live, like having a band in there and just setting up everything and then just having them all play live and recording. I loved that, which is to say that I didn't really like recording track by track all the time, where bands would come in and set up drums and then we record the drums and then we tear down drums and we put up bass. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I know that we still do that a lot, but I think the heart of what I loved was I loved recording live. I knew that. And the second thing I loved was I loved mastering, because at the end of the project, it's sort of like the bookends. You have the front end is like setting up and recording it. And then at the end you have the mastering, which is whoever listeners, like your listeners, don't know, mastering is sort of like the last step of that music production phase. I just loved mastering. I loved taking everything and putting it down to a 2-track bus and really making a nice polished and sheen sound. And I got to do it kind of on my own with nobody else kind of in the studio. I just had the gear and I got to really hone in on that. And I mastered just so many projects over those few years that I really got that skill set down. And so I loved those two things. And so I decided, I guess at that point, to concentrate only on those two things, recording bands live and then mastering. And so what I did was, I just started my own mastering studio. So, all of the things that I mastered and worked on, I just put in my repertoire. I kind of like put it in my backpack and took it with me, and, so to speak. And so I started a mastering company called Mercury Mastering. And, I remember starting that and mastering for a bunch of different people locally, same with word of mouth and all that. And I remember there was a shift in my business where instead of the majority of my work coming from recording, it would be shifted over to mastering. And so, okay, my bread and butter, I guess, is now mastering. And so I just dove head first into that, and that really allowed me and gave me the luxury, I guess, of only recording bands that I wanted to record and only recording bands the way I wanted to record it, which is live, and just getting really good at that, and just getting the sounds right in the room and setting up everything and getting everything right on the way in, and just recording it live and capturing that moment. So I did that for a while. I took my business online because I just had a lot of work that I needed to showcase, and I had so many like file transfer links through external file transfer, you know what I mean, like websites that I just built the site that like handled that, and I didn't think anything of it. And I remember I went on my honeymoon. I got married eventually.
Yeah.
Went on my honeymoon, and I put it online. Went on my honeymoon, took a little break, came back, and saw like 30 inquiries for mastering. And I said, wow, I guess this is what I'm really, really doing. So I just built up my mastering studio and my repertoire, and ended up very quickly mastering, like each year, like literally thousands of songs. And, just that was my day every day. Just woke up, kind of had my routine, went to my mastering desk, and, one song after another, just boom, 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 and just really honing in that skill, building my chain and getting all that done. And people kept coming back. And so, I've been doing that ever since. And along the way, I've also kind of jumped around to different studios to produce songs, like I said before, like where somebody's interested in getting something done and I have the time and ability to do it, I'll do it live and I'll hone in all of that stuff and I'll see projects kind of from start to finish. So that's kind of like, so wrapping up this long walk to a small house, I basically got to a point where I mastered thousands of songs over the past few years and got to work with some really, really cool artists and producers along the way. And I kind of saw this one common theme was that in the mastering world, there are a few different options for people, which is one, you hire a guy like me or a gal like me or not a gal like me, but a guy like me or a gal who does things like me to master for them, or you do like automated mastering, which is really kind of like a cheap option out there right now, or you do it yourself, or you don't master. And so what I started to see was a lot of my clients, a lot of them were big time producers and all that, but then a lot of them were also kind of really, really good engineers that self-produced, and they just didn't know how to master. And so I thought I really enjoy teaching people. I really enjoy mastering. Why don't I do that? And so, fast forward a little bit, I ended up buying mastering.com, which is just kind of a platform that I wanted to build where I teach people how to master themselves, primarily people already in the industry who own recording studios, who mix professionally, or just self-starting kind of artists or musicians that produce themselves, who just need some mastering training. And so I've just been building that from that point forth. I'd say the majority now, it's sort of like the majority of my work is that, and then the rest is mastering, and then kind of now I'm really, really picky with who I record. So that's what I'm doing. I'm mastering.com. That's kind of my new venture, and I've have a few clients going through that and going through the training that I've built, and just coaching, one-on-one coaching with them, and just kind of trying to build that mastering.com domain and empire, I guess. So that, I guess, I don't know if is too lengthy for you or your listeners, but that's kind of the main story there.
That's so great. And I wonder, because let's be honest here, I do my fair share of like social media stalking, but
right.
back in the day when you and your wife were getting set up with your home and everything, you had posted some really, really beautiful photos of your home. And I wonder, is that the environment that you have been working in mostly? Yeah.
So I'm always inspired, I guess, by my surroundings. And my dad was in architecture, or is in architecture. He's in architecture. He's an architect. And so I grew up around like really cool homes, and I just really liked looking at spaces and seeing how you can make it really cool, usable, and beautiful and all that. And so yeah, I think my first studio was, I bought a house and I converted a big part of it into a mastering studio. And then I ended up, building from the ground up a mastering studio, which is also a home that I'm just finished. And so now it's a 2-story mastering studio. The top story is where I master everything. And then the bottom story, I can do reamping and, put stuff through down there and then bring it back up, and I can record downstairs, but it's all completely unorthodox.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's the whole point, is that I want to be inspired by my surroundings and really just have a cool place to work, especially if you're going in there and doing it every day.
Plus, tax write-offs and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it's all a tax write-off, which is super cool. I'm stoked and honored that I can, that I'm able to take advantage of all that.
Well, so then, I know we already mentioned P.O.D, of course, but who are some artists, either recognized or not, like highly recognized or not, that you've worked with that you've been like super proud of the work, or like, I take a moment to brag on yourself a little bit because we're down with that.
Yeah, I hate doing this, but
Do it anyway.
I'll do it, whatever. Well, it's not just, I'm just incredibly seriously like just honored and blessed that I was able to work with some really cool people, and you know, the stars just kind of align. It's not because I'm so amazing. It's just, you know, right place and right time is also a big part of this as well. And so, yeah, you mentioned P.O.D. It's funny you mentioned them. Like a few months ago, we actually, I was the recording engineer for their latest project, an album that they just put out called Circles. So I got to work with some young guys, producers up in LA called The Heavy. And so with kind of us three working together, we were in the studio for about just over a week with P.O.D. working on their new record. And this time I tracked the whole thing start to finish. And you know, so it was cool working with them again, you know, after a few albums. So that was really cool. I think something that also just I was so honored to work on was, just recently Hanson, came in and they needed to do some vocals on a song that Mike Love from the Beach Boys, was working on. And so I got to work with Hanson in the studio and, work on a track, you know, a Mike Love track with them being featured, work on a couple songs with them, and just the nicest guys on the planet. Just really, really just, they're the real deal. And I know everybody thinks like, okay, Bop, like that's the one song that they have, but like, no, they are the real deal. Like they tracked harmonies. Just, it was funny. Talk about the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys used to track around one mic and they just kind of blended themselves. And that's exactly what we did. We figured, hey, why don't we just do that? And so they're good enough. So we put up one mic and they just sang their perfect 3-part harmonies for each song. And, so that was just an amazing, amazing experience. And then I guess some of the other like artists that I've gotten to master for, a lot of hip hop, worked with Lil Wayne, a deceased rapper now, Pimp C, did a kind of a comeback album for him, A$AP Rocky. So a lot of hip hops, a lot of Lils, all the Lils. So I did a lot of that. I think what's fun, it's somebody who's not that well known at all, is an artist out of Nashville called Jared Evers. He's somebody that I worked with back in the old studio, and he flew out from Nashville to come record with me. And so his album's going to drop this year, and he's not as well known as those other guys, but I'm probably the most proud of that record start to finish because we recorded everything live. We didn't do no plugins on anything. We just tracked it all live, put it all on the API console, mixed it, I mastered it, and it just sounds so great. And so I'm really, really proud of that one. And so I don't know if that kind of fills the repertoire there, but those are some of the things been excited about working on.
That's awesome. So when people are still like, oh, they exist, like they did something besides Bop, I'm like, some of their more recent stuff, all right?
Oh yeah,
they for years.
they've got their own studio in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Like they haven't left their hometown, and they're so amazing. And I didn't like know who they were, so when I met them, I knew Hanson was coming in, but like I met them and I just genuinely didn't know their names. So I'm like, okay, so you're Taylor, like you're Zach, okay, like I'm Blake, and I had to ask like the manager, like, okay, which one's Taylor again? And I felt like such a loser, but at the end of the session, we were all just really, really vibing, and so it was, yeah, they're just such great people.
That's awesome. Yeah. Sorry to hone in on that one. I was just like, what?
No, I can't even begin to tell you how many people were like, oh my gosh, Hanson.
So yeah, but besides that, I guess we can, it kind of segues because they're family guys. Last year you became a father. And I'm sure I congratulated you at some point, but
yes, thank you.
That's a real thing. So congratulations.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And then how have you found it difficult to balance your work with having a child and, working with your wife on that? Or has it been something that's just kind of seamlessly worked for you?
Short answer is yes, it's been difficult. Yeah, it's been extremely difficult. I think it was mainly difficult because our son, he was born really, really early. He was 6 weeks early. And so he was 3 pounds when he came out. And so it was whoa, this is a big deal. And so he's totally fine. Everything's fine. But of course, we just had to be down at the hospital for some weeks afterwards. And so that put a big strain on everything. But now that he's home, I'm certainly, starting to see the effects of being a father and working at the same time. And so I will say this, if I was a touring musician or on the other side of the industry, it would be so difficult because I'd be gone all the time. But because I built the studio here at the place that we live, both my wife and I are just here. So if I need to step out and do something with him, I will, and I'm right here. And, it's not like I'm driving far, far away to go to some small little studio. It's right here, So I think, to use your words, it's been seamless in a lot of ways for sure. It's been seamless in that, I wake up, do my morning routine, and then I just walk out to my studio and there, and then I'm there. And then if I want to go hang out with James, my son, I just go and, interact with him a little bit. But, I think the first few weeks are hard because, they're not sleeping, but he's sleeping all the way through the night. And so I imagine it'll probably only get, it might only get easier, but of course my wife is kind of the superhero there because she takes care of him majority of the day so I can work and do stuff. And so we're still getting in the rhythm, but Hanson, man, I think Taylor has 6 kids or something like that. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I think we're done. 1 is enough.
I totally get that side too. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, on the mornings where you wake up, I know we don't always feel 100% doing our jobs. I don't wake up every morning yes, let's go do this. So I just didn't know if those days where you're feeling a little what gets you invigorated to start working again?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I don't know what it's like to work at something that I don't love doing. So this is the ultimate first world problem here because, I've just from a very young age, I've just been able to do what I love. And so I can honestly say that I'm just so grateful for what I do. I get to wake up and then jump into work. And sure, there are days where it's man, I just have to master a lot of tunes or I've got to interact with clients or whatever. And it gets kind of tedious and frustrating after a while, but I wouldn't trade that for anything. I love doing what I get to do. And so if there's anything that keeps me up for 14 hours to work though, it's providing content for my mastering.com clients. That's really empowering and motivating, and I'm excited to wake up and do that. And every evening before I go to bed, I plan out the next day for 30-minute increments. I plan everything out, and I sort of look at that and I go, man, I'm excited for tomorrow. And of course, okay, our son is crying and I can't do these things for this next hour, and you gotta roll with the punches. But no, I genuinely love my day in and day outs, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's so great. I'm very excited for you, Blake. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Okay. So now this is where I probably get a little bit weird for a second. Then we can dive back out of it. But Sasquatch. I just wonder if you think there's any truth to the legend, or if there's some variant of Sasquatch that could be an alien. What's your thought process on all of this? Do you think people are crazy who have seen him? No,
I don't think they're crazy. I'm actually quite honestly refreshed by that question because I'm a total geek when it comes to this stuff. So I'm big on UFOs. I'm big on Sasquatch. I'm big on all this stuff. And I'm the strangest character with with all my friends. And so when I found out that this was this was another element of the show, I was just so excited. So yes, I have thought extensively about this. Here's the conclusion that I've come to is, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call him or her. I will say this, after doing plenty of research and really looking into this, I can say that the Patterson film, the famous film in the 60s that we see, kind of that, the Bigfoot walking and then looks back, it's very, very famous. I can say this pretty definitively, is that is most certainly not somebody in a suit. And so that's what I truly believe. And I don't think they're alien. I don't think Sasquatch is alien. I definitely don't think that they have eternal souls, but I definitely think they're animals and kind of a missing link animal. And I would not be surprised if they do exist and that they're very real. And I don't think people are crazy. I think, just giving that Patterson film, is truly I don't think that is a person in a suit. I think that is a female Sasquatch walking. And so that's truly what I believe. And so, I don't know, it's interesting that we haven't found any bones or anything. I mean, I know that there are some claims, but we haven't found we haven't found a dead corpse or anything. So of course, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, as Carl Sagan once said. And so, that's an extraordinary claim, and so it requires extraordinary evidence. So the only claim that I will make is that Patterson film is not somebody in a suit, and I think there's extraordinary evidence for that.
Fair enough. Every time I've seen that clip, I get goosebumps. So I've never had any reason to believe that it was real, but also just felt like it is. So
right. I watched it before our call actually, because I knew we'd be talking about this, and I'm it's just a good album going. You go back to it's like listening to Dark Side of the Moon once a year. It's every year I just watch that because it always pops up. You know what I mean?
Wait, there are things I can't answer right now, but this is also awesome.
Yeah, you should see my YouTube and Netflix history. It's my wife gives me crap for it, but the amount of Bigfoot and UFO and pyramids documentaries, B-rated, C-rated, D-rated documentaries that I watch is just out of this world. No pun intended.
But it was a good one. My boyfriend's actually into the same kind of stuff. So my Netflix and my Hulu and everything, all of the things. And I'm only, if I'm being honest, I'm only paying attention half of the time because, of course, are not very well made and my attention does not stay with it. But out of all the ones that you've seen, especially since they've cropped up so often on Netflix lately, when they talk about Tesla and just aliens and different things that exist, to what capacity, and this is going to go off into so many different areas here, but, to what capacity do you think the government knows of the existence of aliens?
Right.
Do you think that we keep them somewhere or that we're just totally making crap up? It's just the whole topic blows my mind.
No, totally. And yeah, I think if you if you let me pull this thread, we'll be on the phone forever. But I definitely I am a person who thinks that the government knows a lot of this stuff. And, I've always been taken back by, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Drake equation, this he's still living today. He made an equation that gave basically a probability. What's the likelihood or the probability that there is living beings outside of this world? And I've always been fascinated with that claim. And it's again, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And I think this is kind of the only objective thing that I can say is there is a reasonable, incredibly high probability, just given what Drake puts out in his equation, that there are beings that live outside, whether they are beings with eternal souls or animals or whatever they may be, or angels or demons, whatever. I just know that if you just look at it probability wise, it's just unreal. Just how, I mean, just the billions of galaxies and all this is just unreal. And so I don't know. I think there's, what I do know is that like, even if they did come here and they interacted with us, like, we might be all gone because the time it takes to travel here, you know, and all, there's all of these different equations and all that. But, you know, for anybody listening, like, who really wants to dive into this, I really think you should look at the Drake equation. That's been the one that has really taken me back for sure.
But like, there really are so many scenarios where like any type of life form could exist outside of us. And so I'm thinking maybe yes, but do you think that there is a life form out there that's like, that maybe isn't just like, you know, a couple of cells, but is an active, thoughtful life form kind of like us, who has maybe thought like, oh, hey, I'm trying to reach out to Earth? Or do you think we're all so spread out, so far apart that like there's no chance that any at least intelligent life form has been like, oh yeah, there's another life form on Earth, you know?
Right. Yeah. The main thing that you're getting at is really what Drake puts out in his equation. One of the factors is the typical lifespan of a civilization in years.
Mm-hmm. I should just do my research then. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. And so it's like, that's one of the factors is like, you know, even if they are out there, they come and go in a matter of, you know, X amount of years. And so we may never interact with them or see them. But I do think that, yes, the probability for life outside of Earth is extremely in our favor. And what kind of life is that? Given my worldview and some presuppositions that I hold, I don't believe that those life forms are like eternal beings. I think that they are really advanced animals. And I'm not sure if they have thoughts or not, because I don't know if my dog has thoughts or not.
Right.
but yeah, it's more than just a cluster of cells. It's more than some amoeba in water. I really think, yeah, that there's well-developed. I think it's safe to say, like, I might say that, yeah, well-developed animals that are extremely clever, that could be more developed than us, you know, technology-wise and all that. So again, it's all probability. I think there's high probability, but of course there's no evidence. And so I'm waiting. Every time one of those stupid SpaceX rockets goes off, I think that they're coming back, you know, like I just a UFO. And, the only thing that's intrigued me about this that I can hold like pretty strong claim with is the Phoenix lights that like back in the 90s, that huge craft that like went all over Phoenix, Arizona, and like thousands of people saw it. And, you know, there's some extraordinary evidence there. But to this day, you know, the governor like still doesn't know what that was. As he claims, you know, to this day.
See,
pretty crazy.
They're out there.
They're out there. I want to believe. I'm in my studio right now, and I have a poster, the X-Files poster that Mueller has. It says, "I want to believe."
Yes. Oh my gosh. I need something like that. The closest thing I have is a pair of socks with spaceships that are beaming down at dinosaurs. It's not good enough for me.
I love it. That explains a lot. That's awesome.
Well, so this has nothing to do with aliens, but it makes me wonder, after when you talked about your dog, just for a moment there, you have a very cute dog. What do you think your dog would sound like if your dog could talk like in English? What kind of like accent or?
He would be, well, he's like a 120-pound Rottweiler. He would, however the people in the flyover states talk, that's how he would talk. I don't mean that to be insulting.
It's true.
Yeah, I don't mean that to be insulting, but he's No, he's probably a Southern, like, wow, now I'm really showing my cards what I think of the flyover states. Southern, like low IQ. No, I'm just kidding.
No, we all agree. It's fine.
No. Yeah, he probably he's just the biggest, stupidest dog on the planet. And so he's outside my studio door scratching at the door wanting to come in. And so he's like a big teddy bear. So he's not very intellectual, though, that's for sure.
No, big old dopey. How cute.
Yeah.
Well, he's very photogenic, so at least there's that.
Oh, totally. Yeah. He's got a lot going for him.
I wanted to ask you about envy.
Mm-hmm.
And you already talked about basically how you're living your life stream. So there's probably not too much that you've been super envious about, but I was wondering if there was a point in your life, especially regarding music, where you felt envy and that you just let it kind of take over, whether it was a recent situation or whether you learned something from it in a past situation. Yeah, no,
this is actually a very, very good question. So, you talk about 7 deadly sins. Envy, is not only one of 7, but one of many, many sins. And so, I am like very sinful. Like, I think we all are. And so, like, envy, do I commit that sin? Like, yeah, I do. And so, that feeling of discontentment, or I think it's more centered around, like, look at that other person. I desire that. There's a little bit of jealousy there, or maybe even like healthy competition or whatever. That is our industry. Like, however far you think you've made it, there's always somebody who's made it farther. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of that in me, to be honest. And, I think that's some part of like why I wanted to own mastering.com, and is like, okay, well, that's like having like real estate on Fifth Avenue. Like, you kind of just own that. And so, it was a good move, like business wise. And I wanted to do that. And I really felt like that was the right move moving forward. And it was a good stewardship of what I had done already and what I wanted to do. But of course, there's a side of me that's like envious. It's like, okay, I want to own that piece of land, and, I struggle with that on a daily basis. And no matter what kind of success, quote unquote, relative success that you might see yourself in whatever industry you're in, you are going to like fall short and be discontent. And yeah, I enjoy everything that I do, and I'm so honored that I can do it and blessed that I can work like this. But yeah, it's not my ultimate fulfillment in life. Like, I don't find my ultimate fulfillment in my work. And so, I always have to check myself. Like, am I doing this out of envy? Am I doing this out of pride? Am I doing this out of jealousy? Or am I doing this because this is what I believe I need to be doing to really be executing on the gifts that I have and doing excellent work for people? I just have to keep that perspective in mind. And I think the first way to do that is to admit, like, yes, I am envious, sometimes. It's kind of the first step. And so, yeah, I'm open to admit that and say that I'll struggle with that on a daily basis, and absolutely. But I do have to keep my perspective in line. I think everybody should. Like I said, if anybody reaches some degree of success in whatever industry they're in, they will feel 2 things. Like, they will feel envious, and they will always feel discontent if that is the ultimate thing that they are looking to get satisfaction out of.
What a good head on your shoulders, bro. Like,
if any of that makes sense.
Yeah, it all did. You're so well spoken. I'm very impressed. Thank you for that. But
it was a good question.
Well, thank you. But I also realized that, you have the ability to take, I'm glad that you made it a point to check yourself and to tell people, like, hey, that's where you need to be with it. Because even if you're even if you're sinning or feeling one of these things, especially you've been able to take that envy and really process it and make it into something that it better, like what you're doing now, better serves your community. So it's, right. It may have come out of that selfish area briefly, but it's wonderful to see what you're doing for the community with it. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I believe Ayn Rand talks about it in Atlas Shrugged. This idea of like we all, even though we may seem charitable, we all ultimately always do things for ourselves. And I think she was right in that. But if you really, like you said, like if you really check yourself and you start to notice that and say, okay, am I ultimately doing this for myself, or am I doing this to better the industry or to better others or to do excellent work? Because this is what I've been called to do, and I want to be excellent in my work, and I want to serve the world around me in this. Like that I guess really keeps me going and keeps me, I guess, motivated to continue, doing what I'm doing.
Well, thank you so much for all of that.
Yeah.
I do want to give you some space here. Do you have anything that you'd like to announce or anything specifically besides the website and me pushing everybody toward your guys' socials?
Yeah. I would, not besides that, I just launched mastering.com very, very recently. And so it's been doing so well. And I'm going to be pushing a lot of content, around that brand and putting people through training and really helping people really capture what it's like to master a song from start to finish like a pro. And so I would just, if anybody wants to talk to me about that, just go to mastering.com. You can schedule a time to talk with me, and I'd love to talk with you about stuff. And so I would plug that, and I would say, keep doing what you're doing. I really like this show, and this is really cool. And I'd love to come back on another time as well maybe after a couple of months.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah,
what a great thing. So everybody, just so you know, this guy clearly knows his stuff. And there's enough musicians that I've spoken to in the past that want to develop this skill set. Check it out. Go to mastering.com. And Blake is such a wonderful person to talk to. You guys clearly know this. So it should be an easy process for everybody. But thank you so much for taking the time today with us, Blake. I appreciate it so much. And I will be sure here in the next couple of rounds of the podcast that I get you back in. We can talk about some other weird stuff. Yeah?
Yeah, we could talk about aliens or something. More aliens. But
yes,
yeah.
I'm down. I just need to do some more research now.
It was an absolute pleasure talking with you, and I can't wait to come back on.